I think when it comes to the economy, Phil, you've been on this. I mean, you declared us in recession, I think in like March, and it just took the rest of the country to realize it till July, and the Biden administration still is in denial about it.
The reality in which Phil has been tapping into, and it's looking to be not only more correct now than ever. Now, granted, we expected a little bit of lower stuff because of some stuff going on, and like Phil has called it. We can talk about, the inflation. We can talk about.
Wait. Stop the presses. Stop the presses. Because we've got a very special run in here, folks. We've got a very special visit from a very special attorney. I mean, folks, a man so wise in the legal ways that Johnny Cochran's Force Ghost asks him for legal advice. The one, the only, Nathan Dallon. How are we doing, sir?
I'm well. It's a great day to be in Nebraskan, K.O.E. and the Buck Nation. How is everybody? What have you been talking about? I'm late. I apologize for my tardiness.
Oh,
but I am here now. So that's my take on that. I think when it comes to the economy, Phil, you've been on this. I mean, you declared us in recession, I think in like March, and it just took the rest of the country to realize it till July, and the Biden administration still is in denial about it. I think that the short term will continue to sort of coast along as we've been. I think that once we get into the spring of 2023, there will be enormous pressure on the new Congress and the new Senate to cut checks. I think that we're going to enter a real problem come spring 2023. I think that even December, January, February, it's going to be a little bit rough. Phil could talk about this at length. How are yields looking right now, Phil? Are we going to be able to feed the planet?
Depends if you have irrigation or not.
Right.
We've had really bodies around, we can turn to cannibalism.
We've had a really hot summer. There's some farmers who've probably had their crops burn up. We've had some rains in areas, basically in Tiberius' neck of the woods,
right?
The Indianas, but they always get fucking rain. So like, that's never. We always joke if the price of grain has gone down a little bit. Oh, they must have a wet sidewalk somewhere on Chicago. All the day traders are flipping out like, oh my God, it's raining. Just because it rains a little bit in Chicago, that'll actually change the grain price. But yeah, I think the food shortages are a very real potential thing. What the thing is, we're not really feeling a regular kind of inflation. This is something I was going to get into a little later with Ty. What we're getting is what I call cost push inflation.
Absolutely. You hold to that. If anybody tells you different, Phil, say, no, Nate Dallon told me I was right.
Well, goddamn, I don't need anything else from that. And a part of that is also, as much as I hate to say, the idea of the Green New Deal and the green energy that we have, disastrous. That doesn't come without a cost.
Hunger.
There is a reason.
The cost is hunger and bodies.
Well, we're feeling that cost. We're seeing it in the cost of everything.
Okay,
now,
look.
So
I'll just tell you, unless the U.S. has a really good yield year across pretty much the whole market, so this means from the plains to the true Midwest to Texas, if the whole Mississippi River system can't produce, I think there's a real crisis. Luckily, to Phil's point, it's not going to come home to roost in the U.S. I think that it's more likely to come home to roost in countries that are vulnerable, that rely on international markets to feed their own people. And it's going to be a real big problem, right? That's going to be a real big problem, and it will. I think the greenies are going to get what they want, which is a dead population. Guess what? If you kill 1 billion people, they can't pollute anymore. And I think it's one of the most morally repugnant positions that's been taken by the New World Order yet. And that's the path that we're on. And I think it's insane. The Netherlands, they can't farm right now. Their farmers are dumping manure on freeways to stop traffic, to bring awareness to the fact that 500-year-old farming techniques are now illegal in the Netherlands. And like, I understand. I want to be a person who is a good steward of the earth. I'm a Jesus-loving person. I do believe that God's creation needs to be taken care of. I want to be on that team. But if these are the terms to take care of the planet, I'm out. I cannot be a part of a group or an institution that thinks that starvation is the path by which we're going to get to a better world at the expense of human life. That's insane. So it just has to stop. And so to my way of thinking, this is our number one issue. It's going to cause huge immigration, crazy patterns. It's going to disrupt tens of millions, probably billions of lives. And we're just going to chuckle. We're just going to have our elites chuckling. Sri Lanka.
The carbon they want to reduce, folks, is you.
Yes. Right?
Yes. Like that they just see you as polluting fucking beasts.
That's right. But you're not worthy. Your children, it's immoral for us to have children. They look at our children as immoral creatures because we're here to pollute the planet. And the planet is more important than human life. And that's not true. We need to be good stewards, but absolutely not.
Sickness overtakes somebody to think that. Like,
gosh, dang, I know. It is wild. So I hate to get fired up about this, but I think if the U.S. doesn't have great yields this year, the world is in a world of hurt. We're going to be all right, right? We're going to be all right. But there's a deficit and a shortage worldwide. And if the heartland can't make up the difference, we're host. So that's all.
Yeah,
gentlemen, I love you. I appreciate your willingness to have me on to talk about the Attitude Era. Oh,
anytime.
Yeah, you like I said many times. You're welcome anytime here, Nate.
Yes.
But yes, I believe they can find you at Nate Dallon on Twitter.
Yeah.
Is that it?
At Nathan Nathan Dallon Dallon. That's it. At Nathan Dallon. That's me.
Well, thank you.
I've got green hair on Twitter. Don't freak out. It's green. It's a marketing ploy. Everyone remembers the green-haired guy in a suit. So,
well, sir, we will let you get back to your high-level lawyeries that you got to get done, and all of the lawyering that comes with it. So, good luck to you, sir, and I can't wait to catch you on the flip side.
Peace out.
Now, actually, wait, Tony, while you get into this, I have something I need to announce to all you beautiful people at home.
Okay. Go ahead.
We have another run-in, another guest, a man you need to see, and a place that you need to be, and it is the podcast for you and me, the Mask Off Podcast with Tyberius motherfucking D. How we doing, Ty? Welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here. Appreciate it.
Clearly exercising his privilege.
Well, don't worry, Stephen, because according to the Biden administration, the economy is self-identifying as not in recession. So
true.
Oh my God. Man, I gotta break that shit down. That is something. Like
that is something, ain't it though? So well, T. Final thoughts on Blue Dress Gate 2.0.
We're just cracking the surface. There's so much to undress here.
Ha ha.
Waka waka.
Yeah, no, that just cracked me the fuck up. Like, I'm sorry. This woman is like, has anybody contributed less than this woman? I can't.
Yeah, Joe Biden.
Damn, beat me to it. Well done.
Yes. All right.
Well done.
So that was a volleyball setup for a big spike over the net. You guys nailed it.
I do what I can.
Well done. Well, but yeah.
All right.
He's been so
that was short and sweet. Hey, Chicken, there you go. There was a short clip for you to edit out. Enjoy. You're welcome for once. All right, let me fucking G a lot of love.
What the hell did I walk into?
I ask myself that every week.
I know the word salad just came out of my mouth made no sense.
I thought we were professionals here. I need to retire.
Sure. Boy, I'm sorry if I misrepresented us as professionals. That was my bad. I defrauded you, good sir.
Let's talk shop for me. We got to talk about recessions because I know Phil's probably beat this to death, but I got to get in on this a little bit because I'm a little pissed. And by frankly, a little, I mean a lot.
Now, I just got to say, Nate said ahead, Phil, you've been calling this since March. I'm like, I have, haven't I? Like, so now, Ty, you know how much, Tony, you know how much I hate to say I told you so. But I fucking told you so. Like, so.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. I got to correct you. I'm pretty sure you were actually advocating for this notion back in early 2020, maybe as early as 2020. If something
maybe,
happen.
but like the smart money that I was paying
The
attention to
baby steps, planting
didn't
seeds.
say the words recession
Right,
until about
right.
March, and that's when I was like, we might be heading there. And everybody's saying, well, we technically don't have we don't have 2 quarters. We don't have 2 quarters, so you can't say recession. Technically, we've been in recession ever since January.
So number
Rock and
one, let me be Poindexter here, and I'll break out the glasses if I need to, and talk about the actual, definition. So when I was in school, is that I actually studied economics and political science. Economics is what I started with. So literally, within Econ 101 is that we talked about what a recession was, and the general definition is an economic contraction that is of 2 quarters or more. And in fact, if you want to get further, what the reason why you didn't call 2008 a depression, because even though it was huge, is that it was the Great Recession, was that it didn't go for 2 years. The big split here: recession 2 quarters, a depression is 2 years. So 8 quarters of continuous contraction. So that's where I'm at now. I know that that the media, and even if you look on Wikipedia, which they have proven has been changed recently, is there any global definition? No. If we're talking about contemporary economics, the vast majority of people, particularly within the Anglosphere, so Canada, United States, goes with the 2 quarter definition.
Well,
and the fact
so
that
does
they're
finance and banks.
Yeah. The fact that they've been walking back on this is twofold. Number one, it's politics, because here's the real kicker. The moment that someone utters recession, it actually kind of fuels itself as a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
So I totally get where everyone's like, fuck, we can't say this, right? Like, we can't say recession.
The economy is a psychological engine.
In some ways it is. Like I hate this, but the reality is that there are certain words that the president can say, and we will watch no matter who it is, Biden or whoever, where you can watch the Dow Jones the next day go up or down 3%. We have seen this. We know what those words are. It's kind of dumb. Now, on the other side, getting this kind of hemmed in, there is a level where I just kind of wish that people would more particularly the administration would just kind of own up to it, and it's like, yeah, we're in a recession. But I get why they're trying not to, but it's just making them look weaker.
Midterms.
It's not just the midterms. It's literally the reality is that the moment that they say, hey, we're in recession, we need to do something about it, the likelihood it gets actually worse. So it's really kind of a self-defeating engine, because while you may think this a little ridiculous, the investment community, which is a primary driver in, everything from lending all the way into stock prices, which are usually where everything kind of goes to hell, those people really listen to what the White House says. So I totally get Biden for taking flack on this one. I'm not going to say which one's the right call, because morally, I'm just like, you need to say it. But I've been absolutely abomished by this administration's ability to say anything punctual or with decency. Like, there is no communication to the American people about anything, whether it was Ukraine, whether it was really COVID, whether it is this issue. It's too much. Hey, just have the press secretary take care of this. I'm not even going to address it. I hate this.
That was the thing. That was the thing for me today. The new press secretary being grilled by, it's the same guy in the chair every time that they pan over to, asking the hard question. And he asks it so perfectly every time, regardless of who the press secretary is, whether it's the shark from Trump or the ginger that we.
I know exactly who you're talking about. The blonde kid from Fox News. I think him and Jim Psaki were fucking. I really do.
Yeah, it's always so perfect. And he asks, he's like, "But by definition, this is literally a depression." But that's not actually the definition. And he's like, "No. That is the definition of a recession. That is." Why are you trying to change it? We're not trying to change it. It's just that we're
taking a more.
And then she just like
holistic
approach. Oh shit!
Man.
Wait, I am. But how do I mental gymnastic this verbally? And that's what it is. I hate the fact that we have to sit here and entertain the fact that yes, the Biden administration is 110% legitimately trying to redefine some of these terms because of technicalities, just like he did with 2 billion new jobs. Have we not debunked that to a fucking degree? Give me a fucking break.
I do got one more thing I want to add in here. This is what I would have done in this situation, but it's a kind of a different spiel. Number one, a lot of people weren't really expecting that we were going to get the numbers that we did in either of these quarters. Now, granted, we expected a little bit of lower stuff because of some stuff going on, and like Phil has called it. We can talk about the inflation. We can talk about just general what the economic trends that we're seeing, where everything's going in 1,000 different directions at once. The reality here is that we are not technically in a recession. We are in stagflation, which is a different thing entirely, because
we can have both.
Yeah. Well, no. By definition, stagflation is technically partially a recession because it is negative economic growth at the same time.
So
as
it is
inflation.
a recession.
Yeah. So, and I'm sorry that I'm parsing this out, but it's really important.
No. By all means.
A normal recession is what we call a deflationary spiral in economics. It's basically when things are going along and chugging along, doing the things that they normally are supposed to do, but then you see an entire market sector kind of collapse in on itself. Like last time it was the housing crisis, it was, I'm sorry, 2008, because 2020 was an anomaly. 2008 was the housing crisis, to where basically everyone was doing shit that they weren't supposed to be doing, or this doesn't really make a lot of sense. And sooner or later, the bubble popped, because you can't keep a Ponzi scheme like that going forever. And then you see an entire section of industry wipe out. When that happens, is that it cascades through the entire system, right? So it's usually not one of these deals to where you just have one sector go offline. It's that you have one sector which cascades into the next and next and the next and the next, because right after housing was banking, because they were integrally related. And once banking goes out, what happens to your operating loan, right? So all of business got hit with that really quick. Excuse me. Why this is important in stagflation is that it's actually kind of a good recession. And I know that sounds a little asinine, but there's reality here. Stagflation is not a deflationary spiral. Stagflation is where your supply cannot equal the demand because of numerous issues. And I don't think I have to express that you guys are seeing your price of beef and everything go up. I can't afford steaks right now. Right. It sucks. But the long and the short, yeah, the long and the short, at least for me,
fucking 80-20 ground chuck is insane.
Yeah, it's bad. Anyway, the long and the short, at least for me, is that overall, we're not seeing a deflationary spiral. We're seeing the economy just not like slow down and grind. The good news is that if we can get out of this won't be a 2008. It won't be a 2020. It won't even be a 2001. But we have to fix the supply line issues. The reality is that we're probably not going to within the next 3 years. So yeah, bad.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. We're having cost push inflation.
Yes.
So to me, like I almost wonder if stagflation versus cost push inflation are almost kind of like almost distinctions without a difference in this particular instance.
So stagflation is literally what we would call demand pull inflation to a large degree. It's that people are now paying so much more every quarter to the point where they've got the money, they want to spend it, but they can't keep up with the pace in which prices are going up. So yeah, that's always a fun one. I'm sorry, we're going to get into some technical terms here, but I have to. But yeah, a lot of people, there's two major forms of inflation. Number one is supply push inflation, which is actually where you take a bunch of money, you put it in the system, and your money loses value. It's actually not the majority of inflation that we usually have. We usually have, demand pull inflation, to where you have so much value that you're trying to extract out of your dollar, or for each dollar, that it just loses its innate value because of either one, population growth, which has usually been the primary cause, or two is that you have a supply chain disruption, which we haven't really seen since like the 50s. So in a long story short, we're in an era that we aren't used to because we haven't seen it for so long. But the reality is, to some degree, this is actually normal. We haven't been in a period of normalcy. We've actually in a period of abnormalcy, and now basically the hen's coming back to roost. This is why you've seen inflation so low for the last 30 to 40 years, is that we pitched ourselves to the entire world order because we built it. And so you could get your iron ore from Australia, you get the refined products from, China, and then you get to do the high-end manufacturing here in the United States and in Germany. That system's now breaking down. And so basically Yeah, it was a balance. It worked for the time, but the only inflation that we saw was from population growth. Even a massive amount of money that people or governments were throwing out paled in comparison to the economic investments that the boomers writ large were able to put into the system. There was money to go around forever. Anyway, to make a long story short, we were always going to get here, and I've been calling that for a while. The thing that we were kind of wondering, in that I was being a lot more hesitant than KOE was that in theory, we've got the money. We know what we need to do to fix the stuff. We kind of just had to wait it out. The reality in which Phil has been tapping into, and it's looking to be not only more correct now than ever, but also looking very bad going forward, is that the American consumer cannot keep up this level of spending, for one, and then two, we are not remotely allocating our investments the way we need to get this problem solved as quickly as possible. Right now, the Chips for America Act is still being debated in the House. This bitch should have been passed a year ago. It still hasn't been. And like, granted, I don't like to just throw money out there or do anything like, that kind of degree. But the reality here is that this is an industry that is incredibly reliant on foreign manufacturing, and it needs to be reshored. Anything that helps that, we can talk about like the efficiency of spending, but the long and the short here is that this needs to be done, and the quicker that's done, the better. And I'm going to throw some hay bales at some people right now, because the fact that they're trying to put 2 fab plants just outside of Phoenix is absolutely insane, because fab plants or silicon fab plants need a shitload of water. What does Phoenix really need right now? So yeah,
any little drop of rain. But like, now I think it's actually pretty funny, Ty, that like, how many times has this happened to you? Well, I think when you're on a Twitch debate, when you're like, well, I think X, Y, and Z. Well, how do you define X? How do you define Y? And how do you define Z? And then they're really just trying to distract you for the next 45 minutes. They don't really care about any of that. And I kind of feel like we're seeing our Twitch debates come manifest into the grander political scale. Like, well, we're in a recession. Well, now how do you even define a recession? What do you mean by recession? Like, I find it kind of funny that now we're having all this kind of fuzziness on the definition of that, because like, actually, Ty, I've found a solid definition for recession that the White House will agree on. 2 solid quarters of negative growth when a Republican is president. Like that they will agree to that standard. They will actually hold to. So yeah, like, you're absolutely correct. It's all politics. I think it's to hang on to the midterms, and also it's just, you hate to be the president that's running shit during a recession. So if you can try and define it away and hope it goes away in 3 months,
then why did they try so hard to get that? I don't know. Like, they could have just let it happen, and it would have been Donald Trump's fault, right? Why did they try so hard? Why didn't they just let Trump eat this loss?
Because Orange Man bad, Tony. Like I told Hans 2 years ago, you can either have your Trump now or you can have your Trump later, because he's going to run in 2024 if he doesn't win. So take your pick.
So I actually talked about this a little bit, and I've got this on file on record somewhere in my backlog, but there's a lot of people who will attest to this. I said that no matter who won the 2020 election, they were setting themselves up for defeat in 24. I knew that this whole term was going to be a clusterfuck. The reality that I'm saddened by is that I don't think it's just going to be this term. I think it's going to absolutely extend into 25, 26.
We're getting into the James Polk Millard Fillmore era of America, of a lot of effectual one-term presidents.
The long and the short here is that we've seen a few things happen this year that I thought was either going to happen early or not at all, particularly the Russo-Ukrainian war. The Russians really played this card at the time I really least expected it. And I admitted that. Like, it was when the experts openly told me that, we knew that their forces were on not a high alert, but we just basically would call it DEFCON 1 here in the United States, that they were going to pull the trigger, because they had been running operations like that for the last couple of years. So the fact that there was 100,000 troops on the border didn't bother me. What did bother me was that back in 2014, 2015, 2016, Russia had an army that was 1.5 million men, and it could easily support this invasion. In 2022, we knew that wasn't the case, because we had post-birth data all the way up until about 2005. And we knew by that data that was coming out, which was the most reputable data we've seen out of Russia for years, was that there was a 50% drop in the Russian birth rate come 1990. So anyone who is my age is, significantly decreased in population in Russia. So when we knew that the average person in Russia who is now conscriptable, which is basically 24 to 30, is younger than me, we knew that they weren't going to have the numbers. And then they launched anyway. So that's one of those deals too where I'm like, all right, cool. The Russians pulled the trigger and they are literally in the worst case scenario to do it. What's next? Because it's not just the Russians that are hurting in this world that is coming apart at the seams. We all are. Some of us far more some than others. As an example, no one's talking about this hardly in the news anymore, but the Germans had Nord Stream shut down from the Russians. If anyone doesn't know what this is, it's an undersea pipeline that goes directly from St. Petersburg down to Rostock on Germany. This supplies 40% of their natural gas, and it's been shut down already for 2 weeks. Literally, this means during the winter they can't keep the fucking lights on or their heat on.
I was just gonna say, what kind of global scale distraction does the Russia-Ukraine conflict present to all of the other potential superpowers?
It's not just so there's only one superpower, and that's the United States. But I want to get this very, very clear.
China.
Potential superpowers.
And there's no other.
What I said.
Yeah, I get that, but there's not even any other potential. People overhype China, and seeing how well the Russians have performed.
Potentially we weren't going to see a pandemic the likes of COVID, but hey, what do you know?
That was actually in the norm, believe it or not. But that's a whole other conversation. Okay, fair enough. Tiberius D.
Jesus.
Nice.
So, wow.
We'll have
The
to see
Twitch and YouTube administration. It's happening, folks.
Wow.
We'll have to see if that is an absolutely great idea or an absolutely horrible idea. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of wigging the hell out, but we'll fix that here in a moment. Anyway, long story short, at least for me, is that I don't think that we've even seen the real horror that not only this war has brought to the fold, but the reality that everything falling suit is. So, as an example, excuse me. Okay, as an example of what we are looking at is that the World Health Organization, and particularly the UN, the people who handle food in the UN, have been calling that we're looking at famine in about 20 countries come the end of the year. Now, Phil, I don't know exactly what you all deal with, but tell me this. How many of your neighbors radically changed the amount of crops that they grew? Not in totality, but they went from one crop to another crop because they couldn't get the damn fertilizer.
How many neighbors do I have?
All of them, right?
Yeah. Like corn was one of those things you'd love to be growing it. You'd love to have a field full of it, but Jesus Christ, to get the fucking fertilizer this spring was like you almost had to know a guy who knew a guy. Yeah. So here's the problem.
Weird.
We had that problem. The Europeans had it threefold worse because the war kicked off right as the fertilizer stores were getting resupplied. Yeah. Ukraine says they planted, but half of their here's the thing. The majority of the fighting isn't in their agricultural zones, it's in their mining zones. So everything that's going out. So we're not too worried about the fact that they can grow stuff, but can they get it out? Because everything goes out of the Dnieper River that goes right through the country, and the Russians own the bottom third of the river. So the thing is, Russia and Ukraine technically have this agreement with the UN that they will supply food to the wider world. But Russia's been openly shooting the ports that they're supposed to export out of. So, yeah. The last time that we even saw the Russians cramp down on their wheat exports was back in 2010. And they were having some issues that year. They basically shut down their export machine, and the Russians largely export to the Middle East. Does anyone remember what happened in the spring of 2011 in the Middle East?
The Arab Spring, supposedly, or
yes.
What I like to call the CIA-led rebellions all across the Middle East. It was a marvelous CIA asset cultivation. In a video game.
Anyway,
the video game of life.
So the long and the short, at least where I'm at right now, is that if things even go half as bad as what we think they might. You're looking at probably in certain areas of the world a 30% reduction in the ability to get food, particularly in some of the most unstable areas already, right? So
Fine.
we're still suffering. We're still suffering from the effects of the Arab Spring and things like the Syrian civil war. That is still going on. Everything's largely stabilized, but the level of that damage that did already, like, we're still dealing with the reverberations from. What happens when Pakistan and India, not India, sorry, India is a different story. What happens with Pakistan, Iran, particularly Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Syria and Iraq can't get the food that they usually get because it came out of Russia, Ukraine. Hello, Bandit. Long story short, where I'm at is that I expect that the next year is going to be the most terminal year in Middle Eastern relations. And the big fight that I think was always going to happen, and still is the big fight I think is coming to happen, is probably going to fire off next year. And that's the fight between Iran, aka Persia, and Saudi Arabia, because they hate each other on every single level. And if you think that the Russians and what they're going through right now screwed up oil prices, what happens when two of the biggest exporters go into a knockout drag-out fight with each other?
Can't wait for $8 gas. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. So the long and the short here for me is that there's 1,000 things I can get into with this, but
yeah,
I'm not going to say I'm the doomsayer yet, but I am willing to say right now that with February 24th, 2020 was pretty much the day the world ended, and we're just waiting for the fallout. We're looking at all the... No, I'm serious.
You and I were talking in a live stream that night. I called it the World War III live stream. And I remember you and Smith are like, we're not in World War III. We're kind of a little bit in World War III, aren't we? Just a little bit.
So the good news is no. The bad news is
pre-show.
Yeah, the good news is no. The bad news is that it'll be so much worse. Because
Yeah. That's the good news?
Yes, that's the good news. Because
You're really good at delivering messages.
I really am.
Can I have you deliver all the bad news that I have to give people? Wow. The good news is, it's so much worse, and you're just going to love it. It's tremendous.
So what's the bad news?
Jesus.
So
wow.
The good news is we don't have World War III. The bad news is it's so much worse, because the reality that we're dealing with is that we're not seeing everybody jump into one camp versus another camp where everyone's sides are clear. It's that everybody has got basically 100 to 150 years in knife fights that we put to the side because we, basically put people, food on their table. They got to integrate into this wider system, and we basically police the world. And now all of a sudden that's fucking gone. So you've got the Russians integrating with the Ukrainians and maybe even the Poles, at some point. You've got the Saudis and the Iranians going at each other's throats. How about China and Japan? What happens if they don't get oil? Who goes into a fight? You've got basically the Eurasian Rim and a totality.
Getting back together. Wow.
Yeah.
All the old conflicts.
Yes. In totality. And I've got a guy who's been predicting this for a few years. I was a little skeptical, but now I think it's even going to be worse than what he was predicting, is that next year we are going to see, or particularly even at the end of this year, we're going to start seeing the floor fall out from places because they just can't support it. Europe is going to have a real conversation on how they keep the freaking lights on this winter. That's Europe. Okay.
Jesus.
Okay. The Middle East is going to have a conversation on, hey, we don't like each other and we don't have food. How do we fix this? Well, you just kill all your rivals, right? And so the biggest blood feud that's been brewing up there for the last 3 decades is probably going to spill up at that point. And that's the Persian Gulf literally is 40% of all the world's oil shipped through that just by itself. It might even be 60. I'll have to double check. Some of the numbers have been weird out of there lately. Yeah. What happens when global shipping shuts down? Because that's the reality that would happen if that fight gets off. No, sub-Saharan Africa still relies massively on food imports. And if no one's there to ensure and protect those imports, you're going to have 1 billion people in sub-Saharan Africa go from I have food to I am dying next year. And then you get to Asia. Asia is fun because everyone hates each other. So you're starting off with a good start.
That's true. I mean, yeah, there's nothing better than predetermined prejudice to start off something fun like this. Yeah.
Yeah. So the problem here is that it would be fine if like we were dealing with stable governments that were looking really good.
That was a good one, man.
That's the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard. Oh my God.
Whoa.
But
149 episodes, and you just dropped
Don't
the
tell me no
funniest thing
shit
I've
I
ever
can't
heard.
believe on acid.
Stable.
so yeah, here's the issue. Japan literally just had its former PM who was running for re-election get shot. Right? Shot and killed, right?
He had his
China.
death erection.
Yes. Anyway, China. People aren't talking about this a lot, but we've seen a lot of leaks coming out. China has no vaccine. China has no ability to police COVID, and they have no tolerance from even natural immunity because they didn't really get it for the natural or for the first couple strains. So the reality here is that China is literally going into social collapse right now. And here's the real kicker for me. So China is ran off of a throughput model, not a profit model. So they leverage the banks up to high heaven and they just shove money out of the system. They are now policing their banks with fucking tanks.
Yeah,
There's been video. There's
bank
this is
runs.
yes, there is video confirmation of this. The last thing in the entire Chinese system that should fail is the banks. And if the banks literally went from 0 to 100, and remind you, we knew that there was problems starting to form up with Evergreen going to shit in China. Is that they had an entire housing industry starting to go belly up. We knew that they were finally starting to show signs that the Great Chinese Miracle was breaking. But as I predicted, and a good friend of mine has also predicted, is that the moment that China started going the wrong way because of their throughput model, it wasn't going to be, oh, we're in a recession or, oh, we've just plateaued. It was going to crash. It is the most overcredited system in human history. And if people are making bank runs on the most overcredited system in the human history, it's probably over. I'm going to say this, and this is the first time I've got to do this on somebody else's show yet, but and I need to still do a video of it because like people don't understand the intricacies of what I'm about to say. This may be the final 12 months of the People's Republic of China.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. Now
before Phil spouts off, I just want to say, because I'm sure Phil has a lot to say. I just don't see China going down that fucking easily. Like you're talking like Rocky Balboa's Spider Rico levels of just like curling up and dying here, but we're talking China.
Well, I just want to say, okay, the idea that China could collapse, I've always said China's been a paper tiger. I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, I would read the Kiplinger report, and every year China would have 10% GDP growth. And it's like, you are cooking the fucking books, okay? Now, what could very easily happen here? Well, no, what could very easily happen here is what Ty is saying is if it doesn't go that far,
right,
China could go Japan, where they just have a collapse, a lost decade, and they never really recover again. And then you're going to hate me when you see it, Ty. You're going to fucking hate me when you see it. In about 10 years, because Americans have always been afraid of some economic powerhouse from the East coming and taking over, we're going to be talking about, these goddamn South Koreans taking all these American jobs. Like, it's going to happen. If China collapses, we're going to just take all that China tension and just plop it right onto South Korea because we just need one. I don't know why we just.
I'm sorry. We
did the same. No, China, go back to watch stand-up specials in the 70s. And 80s. Like, man, we're all going to be working for them Japanese folks, aren't we? Fucking Gallagher specials.
Sorry.
The United States has actually always been this way. We're getting into a level where it's extra extreme, but we've been through this before. So this is actually not horribly out of the normal for the historical context for the United States. We've got. As an example, I believe it was literally our third presidential election that we ever had, is that one of the contenders said to the other one that they were a transvestite without the good parts. I don't know what that means, but I think you can kind of get the idea of where we're going. Okay.
It means whatever you want it to be.
Okay. Fair enough. Anyway,
it's just a weird insult.
So
it just means what, yeah.
The long and the short here is that like we're a little unhinged, but this is actually kind of the weird part. The United States has always been unhinged. So I'm actually willing to kind of bet on us a little bit more than maybe you want to right now. Here's the other side of that. China may have 1.3 billion people. Actually, we might be 1.2, believe it or not, but that's a whole other
Right.
conversation. The reality here is that you have a singleized unitary state that belies its entire existence on the fact that they've been able to deliver results. They gave people the economic miracle to where 30 years ago, 50 million people were, I'm sorry, not 50, 500 million people in
Right.
China were still fucking starving. It was still one of the
Sure,
most
sure,
impoverished places in the world. If that goes into screeching reverse, you're going to see literally the entire system buckle under its own weight. Because
I just
here's the thing. There is nothing out of China that has been coherent for the last 3 years. It looks really, really strong. It looks really, really mighty.
Sure.
But we have definitely been able to tell since the Russians have pulled this shit off in Ukraine and that the Chinese have been able to play all their cards the way that they wanted to, is that they had a really bad plan. And that plan was simple. The plan is that the West was decadent, we were weak, that we are literally kind of guilty of what you're saying, is that we can't really get our shit together to stop
Right.
fighting about the things.
Yeah.
The Russians are literally economically bleeding the fuck out the nose, and they are already in a demographic crisis. China, if they are going to go against anybody, they have to go against this place called Taiwan. And they have been preparing for that war for the last 50
Sure,
years.
yeah.
They will
Absolutely.
die horribly. And because the United States won't do the same thing with Taiwan as they did with Ukraine, we will actively declare war on China, because not only is it an economic liability for us, because this is where most of the really good semiconductors come out of, but also, while it's a lot more hands off, we have pretty much openly said at any given point, we will openly defend Taiwan because we can. We have the U.S. Navy. I do not want to dissuade from this. And if it was Trump or maybe DeSantis when this happens, maybe not. But the fact that Biden's in office, I 1000% believe that if China goes bonsai on Taiwan, the United States will formally ask for a declaration of war against the Chinese.
Why would Biden declare war on the country that's controlling him?
Because I don't think he is. The reality that I see here is that
I don't either, but
Well,
I'm
they've
just
certainly
saying.
paid him enough money. God, he's certainly at least
Yeah,
glanced
right.
there.
I'm just trying to imagine a reality where China, which is as efficient as it is and as uniformed as it is, doesn't have some sort of contingency plan to deal with any doomsday scenario like you're presenting to
Tony,
us.
we also thought
Tenfold.
Vince McMahon was going to be on top forever, but look what happened the last week and a
No,
half.
Phil,
Ship and ship
actually,
quick.
I'm pretty sure if you want to check the record book, I'm closer to being correct on that than you would have.
Oh, you
So,
totally called it. I thought it wouldn't happen.
heed
I
your
thought they would
steps.
drag him out as a corpse before he'd get. But no. So
I'm
that's
just
an
saying,
interesting point
we're
there.
talking. We're not talking about one person. We're talking about.
But no,
China.
like because I'll be
We're
honest,
talking
like
about China.
I've always been kind of an anti-war guy, and I'm like, God damn, is this island out in the middle of nowhere worth fucking descending the war? Because let's be frank, if we do go to war with China, whatever conflict we have
Fuck
is
that.
just a cute little game of showing off our tanks and boats and planes for maybe 45 minutes to an hour before the eventual nuclear exchange. Like that's what that really
Oh, that'll be
escalates
fun.
to.
Yeah.
So it's
Can't
just a
wait
cute
to
little
not
game
talk
of
about
look
that
who's
the
got the
next
best
day.
boats, who's got best planes,
So-
who's got the best tanks for however long both sides want to amuse that.
So here's actually a weird thing. Mutually assured destruction with the Russians absolutely is a reality. The better part of it is that we can probably both sides launch about 2,000 missiles 2,000 warheads within the period of about 15 minutes. China has about 40. This is not a game that they can afford to throw nukes at. As stupid as that may sound, even they know that is literally the difference between the Americans bleeding for a century versus them and seeing their entire habitable zone of China being glassed. that is not something that they can afford.
Well, now if it does get nuclear, what's going to happen is now, Tony, you'll know what I'm referencing here, but there are 3 nuclear power plants in China that basically can get struck with a nuclear bomb, and the Chinese government can just kind of write it off as, oh, we had a nuclear meltdown, and so that's basically the way that the United States sends a very significant message. So if you hear about a nuclear meltdown in China in the next 3 years, winky face, it probably wasn't a meltdown.
Just to answer your guy, the cameraman, because I don't know where he's exactly typing from, but the launch window for 8 units or for 8 minutes is for RIBMs launched from submersible subs. Yeah, the land-based continental ones that are the big missiles like Minuteman III, those kind of things, those are about 30 minutes to target, give or take, depending on where the target is. But usually, at least, most of those are going to take 15 minutes to get operational. So yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of technicalities when it comes to the nuclear triad, because the land-based missiles pretty much are at a moment's notice. As long as the sub gets the orders, then you're fine, but that can literally take an hour, which a lot of people don't talk about, is that, the sub is got to be in a position to where it will get the confirmation signal to launch, which means it has to have its floating wire active. Basically on station, they're supposed to do that, but they don't always do that. So sometimes when they're repositioning or moving, that can be out of effect for a couple hours. The long and the short out of the air is that B2s and B-52s are cool, but they're pretty much never nuclear tipped at this point. So the nuclear triad is actually kind of a nuclear duality. And if you want anything that's actually going to launch in a timely manner, it's actually the land-based ones.
And this is all the weaponry the public actually has knowledge of. Yes.
Yes. Now, here's if you want the things that we don't have confirmed, is that it's been very well hinted at me that we do have the ability to swat nukes out of the sky, not the nukes themselves, but the missiles.
Right.
I can't disclose because it's more hinted than it is a reality, but we probably have at least one true system that can plop a couple of missiles out while they're being launched.
Well, that makes total sense to me, because basically since the 60s, we have had an incentive for this kind of technology to be invented. So eventually someone
you can't have access to the technology without going, I better be able to counter this technology.
Yeah, whenever you have something like that, it's like, well, how can I stop that from working? That's the first thought anybody has. So the idea that technology would be available, or at least in some theoretical sense functional, is not shocking to me at all. Because the thing is, a nuclear weapon, all it really is a deterrent to invasion. Because you'll notice that no nation with a nuke has ever been invaded. North Korea is a pain in our ass, but they got a nuke, so we deal with it. Gaddafi was a pain in our ass. He gave up his nukes. Now look at him. Ukraine was a pain in our ass. They gave up their nukes. Now they're the battlefield for World War III. Yeah, it's I guess if you have your nukes, keep it. And also, Ty, I will say, if my Berlin Wall 2.0 fucking prediction comes true, I may never predict anything ever again. I'll just fucking, nope. Recession, Berlin Wall 2.0. I am your fucking goddamn psychic Nostradamus here, motherfucker.
So I'm actually now thoroughly convinced that is the least likely scenario, believe it or
not. Well, they seem to be walling up this river, which seems to be pretty close to what I said was going to happen. So all they got to do is build a gate, and then I'm pretty much right.
I'm going to call that a jump, because we really figured that the Ukrainians were going to get steamrolled, and I'm going to hold you to that. Anyway, the long and the short here is that it looks to me that either we're going to see one form or another, that Europe goes to hell and NATO falls apart, in which case the Russians can steamroll over Eastern Europe with basically reckless abandon, or somehow the Europeans all stay on task and the Russians literally bleed out in the next 2 years.
Honestly, that's why I keep saying the Berlin Wall 2.0 is the perfect way. They build, and no, I've been saying from the very beginning, this is how they get out of the conflict and save face without ever having to say we actually lost. Because they can build this wall, doesn't really fucking matter where, if it's at this river, whatever fucking location. If they have 1 fucking foot of Ukrainian fucking dirt and they build a wall around it, they could say, we fucking won, we didn't fucking pull back, this is what we achieved, this is what we won. And they get to say that they didn't lose any face in this war. And that's why I think that's going to be the most likely outcome in the end.
All right, everyone. So my name is Tyberius D. I was raised by farmers and went to school for economics and political science. So I've got a little bit of that double dipping taste from everybody. And I piss off everyone because I don't agree with hardly anybody. But if you want a conversation that's a little bit more grounded, if you want a conversation that has its own gravity, well, then definitely come check out me. I talk a lot about geopolitics, what's going on in the wider world, and why it all matters. And I have some bad news for y'all. I don't think that 2022 was the end. I don't think it was the middle ground. I think it's the end of the beginning. We've been predicting this for a while, that we were going to call this cataclysm, where the world as we knew it came to an end. Doesn't mean that you won't be able to get food and supper. We're not calling for that. What it does mean is that the world in which we know it's existed for pretty much the last 70 years, it just isn't functional, particularly the last 30. And because of that, we are going to watch system after system break down over the next 5 years. And when it is over, we are going to see a world that is not necessarily unrecognizable, but is drastically different. And so if you basically want to ride out if you basically want to ride out the end of the world is just the beginning, then come check out Tyberius D on Twitch and YouTube. I really appreciate it.
Sweet. Now, Ty, I suspect that you and I are either going to get along really well or not at all during the 2024 Republican primaries. Like, because it's either good if Trump decides to run, I don't think you and I are going to get along all that well. If it's just Ron DeSantis running away with it, you and I are just like, isn't this fucking dandy? Isn't life
I'm
great?
gonna hate it either way. I've thrown out who I want to run as the Republican nominee. I get a lot of flack for it, but I think he's the best choice. And then when it comes to everybody else, that's Dan Crenshaw, 2nd Texas district.
Oh, if it wasn't,
that'd be hard. I would probably.
If it wasn't for his red flag law take, he would be a shoo-in. But that one, I'm sorry. I'm a one issue voter. Can't get past that.
I could almost look past that.
Super based.
I could look past that. He seemed, yeah.
He is easily one of the few people in the Republican Party that I still think is intelligent.
I like him. I really like him.
The reality here that I have a serious issue with is that while the populist part of the Republican Party has absolutely raised some serious issues, particularly in the fact that the Wall Street part of the party, the big business part of the party, absolutely ran ham with the Republican Party, got 90% of everything that they wanted at the expense of everybody else. Totally true. The problem is that the business community and to some degree the military community has openly left the party at this point. There is no one intelligent left in the fucking party at this point, and it bothers me a lot. I don't say what you will about DeSantis and other people. Like DeSantis is literally now like the top 10 percentile of the whole party, and he's still not even that bright. Like I'm scared.
Fair.
I'm scared and
Fair.
I'm shocked. I'm sure some of your audience loves them, but people like Gates, Boebert, MTG, these are terrible fucking people, and they are going to rip your party apart from the inside. Because while you can defeat the left because they're even more toxic than the right at this point, the problem, the reality here is very, very simple. Without a common enemy to keep the right in check, these folks will literally eat each other alive.
Yeah, that's true. But I can't.
You were supposed to destroy the dark side, not join it.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's, like you're talking the stereotypes that just make people hate conservatives more. And I'm like, oh God, they just need to shut the fuck up just once. Just shut the fuck up once.
Like, I'm really interested to see what the midterms are, because I'm still trying to figure out what damage Roe's going to do against the right, because if it wasn't for that, I would absolutely be calling for a blowout on every level. But the reality that I keep seeing here is that the polling data, which is always a little flaky, don't get me wrong, is is only indicating like a 40-point swing. And like at where everything is right now, the fact that it isn't indicating like an 80 sweet swing blows my fucking mind, particularly in the fact that the senatorial seats are all open toss-ups right now. Like it's not +1 or +3 or +5. They're all literally like, +1 or -1. And I'm sitting here like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
So either one of three things is happening. One, the pollsters are being idiots again, which is probably a little true, but even the numbers that I would make for the offset, which is +5 for in favor of the Republicans, still make it to where the Republicans are barely going to pull away with this one. The other side is that 2, Roe actually is way more important than a lot of people give credit for, which I don't know. I'm really kind of up in the air on that. The third is that this country is now so openly fucking partisan that there's only about 5% of the electorate that actually wants to swing their vote. And if it's gotten that bad, we are screwed.
Tom, what do you think? That's what I thought, Tom. Shut up, you fucking bitch. Anyway.
I'm saying we're all dug in like a tick.
It's one of those 3 options. Either one, the data is absolutely junk, which even with how junk the last time it was,
The opposite of that.
How about now?
But yeah, so the 2024 primary is going to be an interesting one. We're going to see where that goes. And also 2022, we're going to do a live election coverage that night. Ty, we'd love to have you. If you'd like to come in and lend your expertise. But yeah, like, goddamn, Ty, this has been a fun show. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for lending your expertise and your acumen to our audience of Extreme and audience of the Big Buckin' Empire. But folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us here at the Big Buckin' Empire, episode 149, Recession, folks. I am your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E., the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast hour, the prince and potentate of the political parlance, the lord of the Scottish Highlands, and the man who gave you a lesson to get out of your recession depression. Phil K.O.E., you can find me right here, K.O.E. Nation on YouTube. Give me a like, share, subscribe, and you can find me this weekend at the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast for SummerSlam. Folks, God bless every last one of you. Raise a glass to yourselves. I hope every last one of you makes it back here happy, healthy, much the wiser to the Big Buckin' Empire. Tiberius, thank you for joining us. Nate Dallon, also for coming here earlier. Thank you for joining us. All of you. God bless. Tony G, take it away.
Yeah, I'm just, Tony fucking G, your 13-time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion. I'll be predicting SummerSlam. I won't be there for the review of the show. Prior obligations. It is what it is, folks. But, as a 13-time champ, I'm granted such leisures once in a while. Shut the fuck up. I've watched more wrestling than all of you. Eat my ass. Anyway.
Wrestling's fake.
Yes. Tiberius, you shut your whore mouth. You shut it tight.
What?
Tighter than a virgin sandbag.
It's fake. Like, it just breaks my fucking mind.
13-time champ. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast. We got more Vince McMahon scandal, retirement talk coming up and down the pike. SummerSlam is this weekend. Check us out for the predictions. Check us out for the review. All that good shit. Big Buckin' Empire, the Dog and Chicken Show. We've got episode 150 coming up very, very soon. I don't know that it's going to be next week. If they want to do it without me, well, they're dicks. We may be taking a week off. We're going to get ready. We want to deliver the best episode we can, so we're going to brainstorm. Just go to Facebook. Here's what you do. You go to Facebook. Actually, go to Linktree / Big Buckin'. Go to Facebook. Hit subscribe. Then you go back. Then you go to YouTube. You hit subscribe. But most importantly, go to Facebook. Stay up to date with when 150 will be dropping. It's going to be the most incredible, most epic, most stupendous, scrumdiddlyumptious episode of the Dog and Chicken Show. Ever. Tremendous. It'll be amazing. I can't wait. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Phil. And Chicken can suck a fuck. He wasn't here tonight. Yeah, we're still rolling. Yeah, fucking beast mode. Yes, we are closing out. We're almost at 3 hours, so we did very well. There's probably not going to be a post show tonight, but it's okay. We will catch you next time on episode 150 of the Dog and Chicken Show. Like, share, subscribe. I am Tony G. Phil, take us out.
The show's so nice. I had to outro it twice, folks. God bless all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. I can't wait to see you join this story again and be a part of the Big Buckin' Empire, K.O.E. Nation, and what the hell? The Mask Off podcast, too. Check them all out. God bless. Travel well, folks.
To here and see if it just smooths itself out.
Back, tell you what I'll do. If I ever get back, I promise to refabricate you, raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised. And now we're lost, we gotta take it down. Let you down slow, it's hard to survive.
Nice.
El Dorado. Oh, Lord. Well, let's see how that one went.
Yeah. See you.